Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Twisters capital of the world, Central Florida, here in the Pinos Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I am talking with RDV from the Great Moose West about the movie Twisters, which just came out in theaters. It's doing very well, RDV. I got to point out that you're getting close to the flyover country part of the United States, full of nice people, as Gene Wilder would let us know in Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
Morons, because I'm watching this movie called Twisters today, and I know you saw it as well. We're gonna
hmm
dive right into it. There's something to be said about natural disasters movies and other things about films. I will tell you this from my initial impressions. I thought the movie was done well. I enjoyed a lot of aspects about it, and I think it's a movie that is absolutely 100% going, damn it, you need to go in the theater to see it. That being said, I have my criticism about it. That includes something to do with the characters, the writing, and some positive things that have to do with the tone and the way the film looked and all that. So I'm curious to see what your initial impressions are, because we're both fresh watching this here too, and
Well,
it's doing pretty good. So is it going to be another
ha-
Barbieheimer? I don't think so, but it's doing really good. What do you think?
having rewatched the original one, I'd say it's on par with the original one. I do love Bill Paxton, become biased that, so I do like a little bit more about Bill Paxton.
Right.
But I gotta say, two words describe this movie: popcorn flick. That's what it is.
Agreed. That this is not a deep film at all.
No. In fact, there's a scene in here where they actually want you to ignore logic because had this been filmed in the '90s, it would have been more realistic. You see what I'm talking about, where nobody got to learn on their phone. It was too late. The tornado came through the rodeo scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually, nowadays they have a 13-minute window.
Yeah.
Where back then it was like 3 or 5, because it didn't have all the technology they have, all the people going on. And I hate the fact that people are trying to build this as a standalone sequel. It's not a sequel. It is
Let's
almost like
get that right out of the way.
it's a
You do not
soft
need to see the
reboot.
first film to see this film.
It's like a soft reboot, I'd say.
I agree with
Um,
you.
and honestly, just like the first film, it follows around the two main characters. But arguably, Helen Hunt was the main character in the first one, just like the girl here is the main character in this.
Hmm.
At first, I didn't like her, but I started actually like the whole cast. Um, Kind of a flip though. Like unlike Helen Hunt's character was not working with like Carrie Hughes.
Yeah.
Every character Hughes was the bad guy of the rich people.
Hmm.
It's more like she gets roped into because her friend wanted to, he worked in the military with this new radar system, and he got involved with some people. The only guy who could fund his stuff was a guy who's a land grabber. She does not know this. It's kind of like a light romance, but there's not much romance. There's no kissing and all that stuff. Not until the very end. Um,
Are you
so
sure?
yes, I'm very sure. Unless you saw more kissing than I did. But no. Honestly though, it has its flaws, but it's a very enjoyable movie. Solid at the theater. I do recommend if you do go to see this movie, go see it in the theater. It is just fun. You see this. I love disaster movies. I love tornado movies. I wish I would have saw Twister in the theater at the time. This has a different soundtrack where the '90s soundtrack was like Van Halen and stuff like that. More
Oh
guys.
yeah.
This was more Miranda Lambert, girl stuff, which I kind of expected a little bit because it's 2024. It didn't put me off though. It'd be like, oh, I hate this movie. There was a slight nod to the first movie. Actually, I think about two of them. Actually, the first nod is that her friend has Dorothy, the
Hmm.
little ball, the same machine they had in the first movie, and that was their first technology. Until 4 years later, this movie takes place after that where her friends die. They did that's the rest of the movie. I like that. I also like the fact that you got Glen Powell is pretty
Hmm.
much the Bill Paxton type. He's got the guys in the RV. He's got the crazy people. I loved it. I loved, like I said, there was some stupid things, that are in there. Like I said, the people not getting warned,
Hmm.
uh, the truck driving through the tornado, was kind of dumb. But there were some cool things I saw here because it's kind of based off an actual storm shaper. I believe his name is Tim Reed. He's a very
Okay.
popular storm chaser. He is we call the tornado wrangler. He had pointed out, and I was watching some of his stuff too. Is like their truck is not armor plated. so anything will go right through it.
Absolutely.
The fact that the truck is underneath it, there's no skirt, so the wind can just pick it up. There's a lot of things you ignore logic of, but like I agree with him, and you can see with me. There are some dumb choices here. The storytelling was all right for me, and I honestly I'm gonna give this a 7 out of 10. I thought it was really good.
So for me, it's interesting because some of the things I liked about it I would not normally like, and a little bit of vice versa with that. So to me, I have no problem that it's that a woman's in the main central role. She's cute, she's good looking, she's British. Doesn't seem that way. Very innocent, doughy-eyed.
She's a British actress. No, but she has an American accent in this.
Yeah,
which wasn't horrible.
Yeah. So the opening gambit, of course, walking in there, seeing. Now I saw Twisters in a theater, but being an '80s kid, in the '90s saw it. The Van Halen thing. There was a certain energy of the music that and intensity of the characters that matched that of the storm. So there was this kind of snowball effect when you go see the film, where you don't want everybody to just die like in a horror piranha kind of movie or a shark movie.
No.
It's not like that at all. You want when I see a disaster film, I don't want political messaging. I don't want people bitching about, well, it's because of climate, man, fucked everything up and all that. And I wondered how they were going to deal with that. I'm going to get this right out of the way here. Yeah. People have been trying to seed with silver iodide for a very long time now. The government has what they call chemtrails. This isn't conspiracy theory. It's legitimate stuff. It actually happens out there. I had no problem with all that they said, you know what? We're not going to make this film political. We're just going to talk about somebody trying to do something and show it and present it. That's how movies used to be made. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. And I respected the fact because I kept thinking, okay, maybe we're going to get some bullshit speech at the end of the movie. And I have to admit, I was thankful that that wasn't there. Now, some people criticize the fact that this movie wasn't about that. But I will say this one thing that's a negative, and then I'll pause and we'll keep going with her. Some other things, it'll be your turn. When I saw Twisters, okay, I was thinking, okay, is there a sequel? Or are they just rebooting it and it's going to be about the magic of two of them, which we do get in here. But I came away going, okay, it really is just kind of like the first one. The biggest problem I have with this whole thing, though, is it's very safe and very boring. I think a half hour it could have been cut out because the characters are just sort of there. The storytelling's fine, and the way it looks is very good. I enjoyed it. But it did not have that funness that the first one has. And I'm not saying it's not because of Bill Paxton or because of Van Halen. The soundtrack, I think, drags it down. I did come away with a healthy respect for the Storms and how they chose to implement it with the CGI, which you and I always talk about and bicker about what we like and don't like. So I'm like you. I had fun with it. I don't think I had as much fun as you did. It was okay. But it left me wanting a little bit more, going, hey, this is not a bad film. But, hey, damn it, they cut out a lot of stupid shit. They could have done some more with it. It's definitely a summer-type movie, that's for sure.
Every tornado movie, I want more. I don't care how dumb it is or whatever. I want another one because don't get them anymore.
Yeah.
If we get a disaster movie, it's it's Geostorm.
Well, so okay, like the opening gambit, right? Yeah. We meet her and her friends, and it's modernized, right? They're taking videos, they're trying to do something, they're trying to chase it and get a grant. We get the setup, it's done well and fine. And then, of course, somebody like me or like you that's watched disaster movies, okay, we know everybody's going to die in here except the main chick or whatever. Mm-hmm. We get the I think she has an interracial relationship with somebody who dies really quick, but I will tell you, it almost was going to feel forced, and it didn't. But the fact that everybody died except her, even though that's a cliche and you knew it was going to happen, to me, it was still done very well. It sucked me into the movie. What did you think?
Well, yeah, honestly, that scene. So basically, they're going to go into this tornado. They're going to put that silver chloride or whatever you call it in it and try to break up the tornado. That was their theory. That theory should work. But they had no idea that it was an F1, it was an F5 that they're going into. They couldn't see, and then they get debris hits their vehicle, so they make a run for this basically. They had nowhere to go, so they had to go under this basically underpass bridge. And honestly, that's one of the places you really don't want to go. But like as a guy that tornado chaser said, that's where I'd go because you have nowhere else to go. You don't want to stay in the vehicle, break down. He said you want to kind of get in that crevice, which she tried to do with him,
Yes.
And it was honestly when I started seeing people die in this, I was like, oh, they actually are going kind of with the dark with this.
Yeah, it wasn't cute. Like the
No.
big scene in the original Twisters that made it kind of fun was you see a cow flying around in it, which
We got
that was like
cows.
shocked the shit out of everybody. Here, the opening, I'm like, hey, they're not fucking around.
No. I did like that. And it's the first one kid, he's kind of like the mope because he's the one that got struck by. They got joked about. He's like, you've been such a little bitch since you got struck by lightning. He's like, well, that's kind of what happens. He kind of
that was kind of funny, right? Yeah.
Then he died. He trips. He runs because he's out of shape. He dies. He gets sucked first. So then,
now I'm not laughing at that.
No,
but that's realistic because a lot of people are out of shape today.
Kieran Shipka is the blonde in there. She's there. She makes it to them to the underpass. They get the main guy gets it. The boyfriend gets up there first. He's gonna pull up Kate up there, and Kate she's trying to get up there. It gets real hard to climb up this thing when it's wet too.
Yeah.
So she goes
I said that too. I'm like, oh, that would be slippery as hell living in here floor with all the underpass. I'm like,
oh my gosh, the
way.
allergy,
all the homeless
stuff.
people sleep up there.
Yeah. So Kieran Shipka then gets sucked out, instantly sucked. Because I said that what happens, and that's true because
vacuum. Yeah,
it's a vacuum under that thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, and the thing is that they never show what happened. They never show the bodies. They don't show you what happens. If anybody gets sucked away, it's like that's it. You just know they're gone.
Exactly.
So I like that, and she gets up there, and like her and her boyfriend, he's on top of her, pressing down. I was like, here, hold on, and then he gets pulled out, and then it's just her. And then her legs already got a huge gash in it. And so after it's done, she walks out. Basically, the sheriff pulls up, or a cop of emergency patrol. And because of this, she loses her nerve. There was only one other surviving friend, Javi, who stayed back. He was kind of like the tech guy. He was the one that was drinking all the time.
Yep.
Yeah. And he had the 90s kind of hairstyle.
He did.
Yeah. So,
he reminded me of Robbie on Cobra Kai.
Yes. So Javi stayed back, and then it's 4 years later. She's working for Noah in New York, and Javi calls her up, and he's like, or he'll call her up. He basically shows up at her office, and like he wants her. I need you to help me. I worked in the military, and we have this new radar things. We want to do a 3D digital mapping, and I need you to do it. So she reluctantly goes. This is what we introduce Tyler Owens. Glen Powell's character, and it's classic, like like a cliche romance thing. It's like instantly she hates him, thinks he's obnoxious because he's got his name. He's on T-shirts and stuff. Instead of
that's the first time she had been wet since the Twister killed all her friends. That's how I took it.
So she sees him, and he's obnoxious. He's blasting country music. He's going. He drives into the tornado apart, and he drills his little drill thing, which are real things they have.
I popped for that when he drives up close. He anchors it by pressing a button in his car. That's like a James Carr super gadget. And the problem is he's so charismatic, and he's a good looking guy, and he's got really shiny white teeth. One of the problems here is there's absolutely zero sexual chemistry at all with any of them. You can say that they were flirting and all that. They intentionally dawdle us down, even though she's running around in a wife beater half the film. Her shirt never gets wet.
I didn't get that impression. I thought that you could tell, like, he's starting to really like her, and she kind of liked him, but didn't want.
They're like 10-year-olds today.
Yeah,
I mean, just no lust.
Yeah,
it was very sanitized.
It was family friendly.
Family boring.
For you, I guess. Anyway. So you see him? He anchors in that, and then he fires fireworks into the tornado.
That was cool. I like that. That looked cool.
So yeah, because he's like he's live streaming. People are asking questions like that. It's like, can you really do that? With yeah, you can. As long as there's a cell tower, you can actually most people do live stream, and it's firing rockets. The Tim Reed, the specialist, he said, well, they do. First they didn't do it. They just kind of they shot out something else, they data stuff. But a lot of times they were never inside the tornado. They were outside of it, and they shot it, and they had little parachutes. That's how they got their information. But he's like, but then, like, even he said at the end, as far as like what you want to do to disperse the tornado, he's always been like trying to get data, but he's like, because this movie inspired him to basically try to disperse the tornado with that, doing the chemical stuff. So he's going to work on that. But I mean, like, there was a lot of similarities where the guy, all the angles, because they must have been like following this guy on YouTube and just like started like mimicking a little bit because he's kind of crazy like that too. Like, so that was like, there's a lot of parallels to this guy.
Yep.
You know, so anyway, though, yeah, I like that. So so she's kind of like standoffish and then she goes with Javi and they're gonna put the radar down, but then she chickens out and she drives and she parks farther away and Javi's like, "What the hell?" I'm like, that's where I was like, that's why I hated her. It's understandable. She's scared, you know. But I was
right with her. You mentioned at the beginning about not liking her, then flipping. Here's the problem I had with her. I get that she went through tragedy. I get that 5 years later, she's got this professional job. She's being recruited. She froze. Not a problem.
Yep.
While she survived the first thing, I didn't see anything particularly heroic about her. So I don't hate her. I understand her situation. I even sympathize. But again, at this point here, there's nothing about her that makes me like her. Just because she might be good looking or hot, it's no reason to like her. I mean, being honest here, what has she done character-wise? What has the story done for us to make her go, hey, I'm rooting for her? It's not like she looked at him and went, hell yeah, I've been waiting for that call. Let's go find us some twisters. Something like that would have just changed the dynamic. The thing about this movie, though, is it mopes. There's a mopiness around it. And when they dial into like the evil land grabber guy, they could have done something with that, and they didn't. It's a thing. I understand it, but they weren't really clear on what they were doing. I thought, oh, that's kind of an interesting angle. It's just when the movie does the twister stuff, it seems kind of dark. And so that's what I mean. There's a heavy tone around parts of this film, which I actually appreciated. It was a bit more sinister than the first one, and I thought that was good, but there was something about her. I wanted her to be a bit more resentful or angry or some sort of attribute about her that as a viewer watching film, I want to root for her rather than just go, yeah, this whole film's about you coming to grips with it and doing good at the end. I get you got an arc here, but you didn't do anything to endear yourself to me at the beginning. That's a big problem I had with her.
What I started to realize is towards the end here, it kind of felt like Top Gun, after he loses Goose, and he gets back on the horse, and it's hard to get back, get back out there. And with her, she had the same problem. And then when she meets this guy, I said she starts realizing that he's actually a good guy, a decent guy, and everything.
Oh my God, he's not just another pretty dumb cowboy. He's actually smart.
Yes.
He actually, you know what? The big fuck you in this between those two when her character really started changing, even though she was wet for the guy, another guy was a simp, was when she's making fun of him being the Tornado Wrangler, which is a great name and it's fun. And they're selling the t-shirts and all the swag. And I'm like, you know what? That's exactly how it is. But the fact when one of the side characters of it comes up to her, like offers her meal and water, she's like, no, I don't have any money like that. She's like, no, she looks at her and says to her, well, why do you think we sell the t-shirts? It's to help all these people out. And it's like, fuck you. That's why he does all this, because he's helping people out. And then you get his backstory. That was good.
Yeah. I like that because a lot of people today judge before they even know someone.
Exactly. Another reason why her character's not likable.
Well, that was at the beginning. It was unlikable. Towards the end, I liked her a lot.
I understand.
Yeah. But anyway, so basically they after all this realization, they start working together. The really biggest thing that was after they had. Here's the big problem with this movie. This is the only thing if you said this is a popcorn movie, is she after this, if she realizes that her hobby is working for our she looks at the guy. He's basically a land grabber who basically takes advantage of homes that are destroyed and buys up the property. And makes them pay higher rent stuff. And so she takes Javi's truck, and just, drives away. After she finally drives home because we've been told in the movie that she basically hasn't been home in 4 years. And we return to her mom, and her mom is actually the actress that was on. She played the mother, Maura Tierney. She was the wife in A Liar Liar. She was also on ER for 148 episodes. She played Abby on there. So I was like, oh my gosh, because I was like, why do I know this person? I'm like, oh, she's in the 90s. That's why she's a 90s actress. And it was really cool. And so basically she goes home. And her mom kind of is like, hey, what's up? And her mom's basically tough as hell. And I didn't have a problem with her mom being a single mother. I don't know. I don't need the backstory about what happened to dad, or they don't give it to you, so there's no need to dwell on it. But the mom, she's got a farm, and basically the mom comes in like, and after she walks to the barn where basically that's where she did her research lab was in this barn and stuff.
Yep.
And you get a quick flashback of her and stuff, realizing that she went to school for this stuff, and she's like, and her, and he shows up, eventually shows up, having got, because basically one of the guys he works with finally clued in what her last name was, in the incident,
Yep.
So he showed up, but before this, the mom's like, because she says like, you're just gonna throw, like, it's like, actually, she's like, you hold on to this, mom? Why do you hold on to this junk? You can just get rid of it. She's like, why would I throw it away? You promised me you were gonna save the world. Basically, mom gives her a pep talk. She's like
calling her out on it.
Yeah, I love it because mom's like,
just wait for me, Rocky.
I love it. Her mom says, gives a reality check. He's like, I've been here like through tornadoes, hurricanes, all that stuff, and so like floods stuff. It's like, I'm still here. I'm still doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So basically gives her a kick in the ass. And then he shows up, and then he finds her journal in there. And he starts reading it and stuff, and she gets all kind of, and this is where it gets down to the root of the problem. She is still deathly scared. She feels guilty. She has survivor's guilt, which is natural.
Yep. Absolutely.
And together they get over it. And it's like
they get over it together.
Yes, together.
They go through their own shared trauma.
And honestly, if this had been a 90s movie, there would have been a sex scene.
Oh, absolutely.
Or at least more kissing and stuff. Kissing the rain, like The Notebook and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Showing it, yeah, but I mean, yeah.
It's definitely lacking that human touch.
Which, yes, some would say she's out of touch, out of love.
Well, here's the thing. It's if they did a few of these things maybe early on for us to, like I say, endear her to us, that's fine. And he's so much fun, his character, and even though a lot of the reviews I've read so far after watching, it's like the Glen Powell, or the hell his name is, movie, but it's not his movie. You're right. It's all her, and it's anchored around her. And she's not bad at it. It's just the way they chose to wrote her and portray her. And so while I get it was a bit of a redemption arc of dealing with grief, I think the movie just shows you stuff. I don't know that it really does anything, because I tell you, the things about the twisters themselves were interesting, and they looked pretty good. And each of them had a purpose, which is what we talk about, right? Don't have violence for violence sake. Have it be a part of the storytelling. Normally, and I'll admit this, I bitch about CGI because it looks like shit and it takes me out of it. I'd rather see an old matte painting or something like that drawn by an artist's hand where I may not know it's real, or I could tell something's off, but I know it's not computerized, where it just looks phony as shit. I can't stand it. I can't stand green screen, blue screens, rear projected stuff. It's horrible. But here, there's a scene where it's very conveniently the way it's written, where he's like, here, I brought you some pizza. I want to show you something. Come here. And she takes him. He takes her to a rodeo, and that's where he finds out, I grew up on the farm and all this stuff. And they're talking, and they're having a rodeo and all that. And this is the you got to face your fear speech and all that. And it's predictable. It's a little lame. It's a little boring. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not exciting. But here's the thing: I always bitch about action scenes being done at night because you can't see shit, and it's an excuse to be cheap with the CGI. I think out of all the tornado scenes, the one that they have in the evening, I thought that was a really good scene. It was dark, it was sinister, it was quick to the point. And when they run inside to the building and everybody's trying to flee, you get a sense of the panic in it. The guy's in there talking about his room, he's ignoring everything. I found it totally believable. And the fact that they survived kind of in the pool was like, hey, we can get through this together. I thought that was kind of a great way of picking up.
Let's talk about that. The guys, so they get the tornado warning, and obviously this is the really big flaw that a lot of people cannot overlook, is because everybody has smartphones, everybody has the Doppler radar. So you get the tornado alerts 13 minutes before the tornado hits. This, I think, this came out so fast, and it was, so destructive that their alarms went off, but it was already too late. So a lot of people were crashing into each other, trying to drive away. They went to this motel looking for a shelter. It was the two of them here, Glenn and I think, what's her name? We call her Kate in here, but it's Daisy Edgar-Jones is the actress. And they go to this. They look here. They take this mom and daughter. They run inside because they're gonna get the fire. He's like, "No, that's the worst thing you want to do is get a car in this because you'll just be thrown." And they go in the motel. He's like, "Do you have a basement?" The guy's like, "What?" And they get the douchebag in there. He's like, "Hey, we're here first. I'm not gonna pay this for my." I'm like, he's like, "Dude, there's tornado." And the girl's like, "There's no tornado." And then the siren shuts off. See, it's all false warning. And as they leave, like they run out of there, they get in the truck, and you see the two idiots get sucked up in a tornado. where the other ones go. Glenn and Daisy, and then the mom and the daughter go. There's this pool on the ground. It's empty. There's no water in it, but there's like a crevice under there where the pipes are. You can kind of go in there.
Yep.
And I was like, oh man, because like they always tell you, it's like remember how you can they can suck water out of the pool and stuff. You know, there's enough suction stuff, and there's also watch out for debris. Then that they get in there, they crawl in there, they hunch down, they hang on, and this is what I kept thinking of. Remember when they tied themselves with the harness to the pipes in the first movie? I kind of got a call back to that a little bit. I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of this.
I see what you mean. Yeah,
the pipes. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this reminds me of this because they had nowhere to go. And so when they're in there, a trailer falls in and it lands just enough where it doesn't crush them. And I was like, oh, this is like intense. So then I had to go watch this guy, Tim Reed. I'm bugging his channel a lot, but he was saying he's like technically you kind of want to go into something like that, a ditch, because the tornado likes to go in a straight line and avoid crevices because it loses its fuel, you know. So naturally, when it goes into a ditch like that, it everything slows down, and it's like you can survive there, but he said the chances are you'll still be killed by debris.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's what he said is like if you can get into a storm cellar and something like that, you know, be prepared, all that stuff, you know, and especially if you're traveling. You know, it's like you could try to get into a ditch or something, a little bridge. Yeah. Yep. But anyway, though, so yeah, they survive in there. They get out. The whole town's devastated. This is where we get the scene, you know, and you know, basically it's like, holy crap! It's like everything's gone, and it just hits you. It's like this is actually like it's not real footage of towns, but I mean like it's like they're not actors. Well, I guess they are actors. It's a town recreated though. But we've all seen these videos. After in the news, they show you everything, how everyone's just like they're picking up stuff or and stuff. It's like it is heartbreaking. And Twisters actually, this movie actually was raising a charity to help out families who are actually displaced by tornadoes and stuff, which I thought was really cool for this whole movie company. But like I said, this was a fun movie. Let's get to the last part.
Well, before we get to that, I want to ask you about just natural disasters, because we've covered a lot of them here, and some of them you may have experienced or our listeners may have. Down here in Central Florida, I'm on approximately 5 acres of, you know, what I call old farmland, where, you know, I've got some older trees, and I got fruit stuff growing, and I got my dogs that I let run around, but I got to be careful of coyotes and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, living here my whole life, even though I've traveled around the world, I have an appreciation for the weather, and you get used to it in where you live, right? One of the things that happens down here is that when we call it weather porn, where everybody goes, there's a tropical disturbance and it's about 2 weeks away. We have a low coming off the coast of Africa and it might develop in 2 weeks. And then everyone gets so horny to try to explain all this stuff. You know, the weather people that Floridians like myself don't take them seriously. Here in Central Florida, in Orlando, you can get a direct hit Category 1. And I'm not knocking what anybody's been through, because I've been through many of them. I've been without electricity for a week. I've been through my own stuff. It's amazing, because if you have above ground utilities, which Florida had originally, it's going to go out. If you have underground, it might last, not always.
Fiber optics is the way they're going now.
Yeah, well, exactly, because then you got a chance of it. It's easier to diagnose where it's at. It just costs a lot to install, right? But the thing here is, in Florida, you get this panic that gets ginned up a lot, that a lot of people, especially the old timers, like, yeah, it's a Cat 1. I don't give a shit. It's not even going to hit me directly. It might go through Tampa and turn up. And they're wrong most of the time with their predictions, and a lot of the models are wrong. But everyone's so quick to be first rather than right that people don't trust weather people or anything. And in Florida, you mentioned a storm chaser that you mentioned a few times. Down here in Florida, when we had a real bad one 2 years ago, whatever it was, in South Florida a little bit that affected us in Central Florida.
Reed Timmer, sorry, is guy's the game. Sorry, Reed Timmer.
Okay. A lot of people do that down here in Florida. Of course, when the storm's coming, surfers come out on the coast and all that. It's a lot of fun. But a lot of people were driving in low-lying areas in their cars and hitting up. And I literally watched when the hurricane was coming through, where a guy was live streaming and his live stream ended, and there was news about the guy later. And it's exactly what we say. You forget that if you're like in a roller coaster and the roller coaster is going 70 miles an hour, something falls out of your pocket like a penny or a watch, it's hitting you at 70 miles an hour. That's a lot of kinetic energy.
Yeah.
From here, particularly in South Florida, anything like coconuts, It's like a bowling ball. It's a missile. It will kill you. So one of the things about the destruction that you see is it's always worse when you get up walking around and all that,
Yep.
because if you get a direct hit from a tornado, especially here, if you got any sort of a mobile home, even though you can have hurricane proof where you got shutters and stuff, it's gone. Period. But you're right. The damage is caused by falling trees that get waterlogged, the branches break off and do all that stuff. The widowmakers, nasty. Have you ever seen any destruction from where you're at? Because you're in the Great Midwest. Have you seen that or been through it?
I'm in a bubble where I live. I live out on the Lake Michigan stuff. But if you go about 20 minutes south of me, it's on Eagle, always tornadoes. We've had them up here in Milwaukee at least winter. Mm-hmm. And like I said, they are devastating. But the one big difference that we have between most people down south stuff is that we actually have like basements and cellars, you can go into. It doesn't mean they will actually be much better help than you, but like a lot of people said, like you want to have an extra storm shelter.
Yes.
So when it does not have like the house above it and stuff. It actually has like the metal and all stuff you can go into. Because it's something you want. I mean, nowadays, if you see them, they have these like tubes you can go into. They're steel tubes. They're really concrete, and they're really secured in the ground and holds up to like four or five people in there.
The bunker.
I call them coffins.
Yeah.
2 coffins. It's like, but I mean, it's scary. I mean,
if you never see the water spout off of an ocean coast, fucking terrifying. It's brutal. This movie does a good job of showing you destruction without going, oh my God, it's CGI. It can't be. And like I say, the movie starts off with, you're like, man, they're not screwing around the way they're killing people off. It's effective. And this destruction scene that you're mentioning is perfect. It really hits faster than you're done. It's quiet. And they did a smart thing. They didn't play a lot of music.
Okay, now the other tornadoes they did the twin tornadoes, so they're too close together, and then they go in separate directions. That's fake. They would just collapse into one another.
Right.
So they went different directions. They added more to the story. So basically, if you look past that, that's fun, Then we get the fire tornado when it hits the oil refinery, and then the flame gets into that. That is real. That can happen. Mm-hmm. It doesn't go as high, but I mean, if it gets enough heat, you get the flame tornado. That was like, because remember,
cool.
This was the first, I know, yeah. Well, hot.
It's cool looking. Let's be honest.
It's hot, bro.
Yeah.
But this isn't the first one to do it. Into the Storm did that first. Remember?
Yeah. Was Gerard Butler that one?
No, that was Geostorm. Into the Storm was the 2 kids in the high school. Remember?
Okay.
They had to go under. They had to go inside the storm drain. At the end, like to get the tornado that was coming towards the high school.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it came out in 2015, 2014 or 17 or that. It's very. I recommend if you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's very fun. Yeah, and honestly, this is I like this. Now, here's one thing, because they kept saying this was a standalone sequel. It is not a sequel, and because I had my thought, like, oh, it's going to be a sequel maybe in here. When they show the mom at the farm, I kept thinking, going back to the old lady in the first movie.
The
wind chimes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm like, oh, she's dead. We're gonna see cows flying. I was ticked off. I didn't get to see that.
Everybody remembers the cow.
well, yeah, because that was the most thing. It's like, you got Bill Paxton, he's got Jamie Gertz, who I think is a trade up over Helen Hunt. Sorry, yeah, and they're in like, as they're driving a bridge, like, you see the water spouts, and then he's like, oh, here's cows. He's like, we got cows. What? Because you can't top that kind of zaniness. Because even Twister, the first movie, had some unbelievable thing. It was a popcorn flick. But I do love the sound stages that they created. Like the house that tilted, like they had to climb up it. Remember that the house was rolling across the road? They drove through it. Yeah. Because that was all designed. They actually built it all stuff. It wasn't CG. So I do give more credit to that first movie for more originality with that.
Right.
With the things. I don't know how much this was CG. Obviously, they used a lot of stock footage from Storm Chasers when they actually show the tornadoes and stuff.
And a lot of it, too, when they're driving around and the sun is out, this is when the movie really shines, because we've talked about before, natural light and being in the outside and seeing stuff so much better than, back lots and sets and fake buildings and all that. Obviously that has its place, but there's something about it, and you're like, man, I want to see them out there driving across fields. You got that feeling of driving really fast and seeing the sky open up.
Right,
We don't
right.
get to see a lot of that stuff in movies these days. That's
No.
what makes it awesome. Appreciate the vast openness that you're in, and you definitely see that in some of the shots. Now, some of it looks a little janky or whatever. I don't know, but one thing I was going to ask you about, because here we have, of course, IMAX theaters and stuff. But I have not seen a movie yet on the type of screen that I think you said, where it's 3 screens. What's the deal with that?
So basically, it's called the super screen. Marcus Theaters has it. I'm not sure if AMC has it or any other ones. But basically, you have the giant screen, and then they project also the movie on the right and the left walls.
Okay.
So basically, you're getting like that panoramic, this big, huge thing. So it kind of feels like you're inside the vehicle, like IMAX almost a little bit.
Okay.
The only problem with that is that this movie, the theater, it ruined it for me, my experience a little bit, because like I just want to look ahead. I don't want to look to my right to see what's going on. Like when they're in the truck, you'll see like the part of the truck is on the right side, and then whatever's on the left. So when they turn, you go from this. It's like,
oh, okay.
And you still get the grass and see. I'm like, I just want to watch.
The field of view is very wide.
Yeah, and the problem with that is that the seats are too dang close. I was in the back, but still, it's like if you're gonna do that, those are only good if you have one person and they're in one of those virtual reality things.
Right.
They do not work with other people in there. Because even though I'm in the Dream Lounger seats, where you lay back and stuff, it's annoying. I'd say about 75% of the movie was like, oh, it's on the wall, and then it's like, okay, and I just watch this, and it's on the wall. It's like, I don't care about that crap. That's cool and stuff. It's like, like when they're in the truck, you could see like feels like you're inside the truck with them.
Mm-hmm.
It was just I'm like, it was a gimmick, and it's a ripoff. I don't recommend it. But it was a new thing. I went like, oh, I'll just try it since it's here. I'll give it a shot. Why not? Also $16 just for a huge 32-ounce soda and some pretzel bites. I was like, whew. But hey, whatever keeps the theater in business, I guess.
No, you're mentioning something that's important, because the one thing my takeaway from this film is it's a light film. It's does some things okay. The storytelling is not bad. It's decent by today's standards, which to me are the lowest of all time. I'm going on record saying it. And again, I tried to be positive. There's a lot of things I liked about the film. Thought things could have been done better. If they made this into with an 80s or 90s sense, I think it would have been even better. I could complain about it. I don't want to come across as that's what I said. I'll just point out things that didn't work for me. But that being said, it's you and I have been talking about, well, what the hell are we even going to go see this summer? And it's a shame because there's such a lack of what I would call, good summer type movies. This is one where I'd go see it because it's a summer film, and I still have that ingrained on me. It's not something that's going to go away. But if young people today, the way movie business is going, are going to not be seeing films that much out there, who cares? I watched a few things we on TV recently that we haven't yet to talk about. We talked about Beverly Hills Cop, and that was a great hit. I would have loved to have seen that on the big screen, right? Yeah. But that's the way these things go. So I think things are going to get a lot more worse in the viewing industry before things consolidate, settle down. Prices are getting raised. They're adding more ad subscriptions. They're going after money and doing gimmicky shit rather than saying, you know what? Let's take something. Let's just write it well. Let's let the quality of the thing itself be the attractor. Wow. They're too easy to get away from it, because I had never heard of the screen you talked about till you told me about it today.
It's not really new. They had it. I think they had it last year too. It was just like it come there. One of the guys that's been on the channel here, LK.
Yep.
He said he had one of those at one of the theaters where he was in California or where he's in now. He said like he'd been on them before. He said they're all right. And I'm like, it's like a cheap IMAX. I said it was. I'd rather go watch an IMAX and just be so far back, but you still got the huge curved screen. It makes it so much better. The giant. This was like, no, sorry, it doesn't work that way. But overall,
Blade like on IMAX. Holy shit, that's good.
Seeing anything or on IMAX where you're on a boat and you're about to go off of over the into the waterfall. Like that stuff, that's like, but anyway, let's get to the ending here.
Yes.
All right. So they decided to work together. They designed. They went to they got all the girl everybody together. They grouped. They got a new aluminum trailer, as you see on there. That's the trailer they use. They're gonna put the containers. They basically fire off the lids and then they release a chemical in there, but they use his rocket, which is there, the three silver tubes they got there
Yep.
by the back door. They put the basic chemical basically shoots moisture into it. So basically, and the other chemicals is reacted to basically absorb any moisture.
Yeah, well, they explained it, which I thought was done well enough without being too nerdy.
Yeah.
What it is when you need to have something for moisture to stick to, and that's the seating part. So the problem they had was that they were trying to put something that would absorb moisture to take the intensity away of the tornado, and that was the whole thing that failed, that she felt guilty about with people dying.
Mhm.
But what they did was they used her simpy friends, a modeling or the hot looking Cowboys model computer to kind of generate a new model, and used the funds with the other guy. They A-teamed it. So the bottom line is they did two things. They shot the seat up there to initiate the rain process, so then they could turn around and absorb it, which sounds exorbitant, but again, in today's world of weather engineering,
A giant
which does happen
sponge,
on a big scale,
call it.
exactly. But you had to get the water going first, and that was their problem. So it was enough sciencey stuff to talk about it without nerding out, that did its job. That's all you need to have. And so at the end, did it work? RDV, please tell us. Spoiler alert.
So this huge spoiler for this, especially the end. The ending of this. They go they go to chase a tornado, but then they realize that it's going towards this town. And then, and she convinces like her friend, he's like, hey, Javi, like, who cares about the science? There's a town over there. You used to care about trying to help people instead of like making money and stuff. So he eventually goes with her and him, and they try to, and the whole crew tries to warn this town, get them, help evacuate, get them out of there. The town has no basement, or actually, no, the storm shelters were full. That's what happened. The storm shelters were full. So they put everybody into this little theater here, and there's nothing really to hang on to. There's just chairs bolted to the ground. That's about it. They're in the back. They're in a corner huddle, and there's a moment where he actually gets pinned by debris, and he basically tells her to go, but she wants to stay. Then Javi shows up at the last minute, like and because he basically changed his mind and helps get him out of there. And they said so. Then while they're all in there, they realize this is going to hold. Everybody's going to die in the theater. So she basically, and this is the thing where some people might have a thing is like, well, they got the girl doing it. You roll your eyes, and then she steals his truck, and she does it by herself because because he said something before. He's like, in order to get over your fear, you gotta wrangle it. You gotta ride your fear.
That's right.
Yeah. So she, inspired by him, she decides, I'm gonna go do this. It's my experiment. I'm my responsibility. I don't want. And she drives into the tornado, or police parks it there, and then she drills it in. And then the truck, even though it's drill in it, the little the drill bit stuff goes through, it starts to lift up a little bit and gets fuller. And she fires the rockets, but at first the chemical in the back doesn't want to release, and then finally it does release. And the tornado disperses as the truck's on its side. And then basically the tornado disperses. It's just about to get to the town. But before this, the roof breaks off and the door pops open. This is really cool. They got the movie theater screen playing.
Yeah.
And the last time I saw something like this, I think there was that giant ant movie with John Goodman, where the screen, basically the whole wall breaks off behind it, and then you see the tornado, and then at least two people get sucked out as the chair breaks off. I was like, oh my gosh! It's like this is like twist. This looks like a Universal ride, doesn't it?
Yes.
And holy crap! So they see this. And then the girl who basically was the drone girl, and she gets her chair gets he grabs Cowboy Boy, Glen Powell grabs on. He's like, "Don't let me die! Don't let me go!" And then just as Katy already released stuff, it breaks down, and then the wind's out, and she drops down. They basically they realize that it worked, and she ends up going back to New York. Or at least headed back to New York, and then he ends up he shows up at the airport. They say they're kind of good goodbyes, and Javi kind of urges her. He's like, "Hey," because he basically dropped Kate off, and he's like, "Hey, go face your fears. What are you waiting for?" And he runs after it, and they kiss in the airport, and that's how it ends. Yeah, honestly, I thought it was a decent ending. As I said, it felt like a '90s ending.
I would agree with you on that because I do think the ending scene here is fitting enough. It's what you expect when you go to watch a movie like this. It's definitely got a lot of that energy and that intensity to it. I
Yeah.
did not like a lot of the soundtrack type music. I thought it
Oh,
was
of course,
very
very
laid
girl.
back. It
Yeah.
didn't get you jacked up and excited
No.
and waited for the next thing. Here, though, I mean, it's what you would expect. And we did not review. I don't believe we reviewed Furiosa on here. I know I had saw it, and I was very disappointed with a big chunk of it, even though George Miller's still responsible for it because of the CGI in it. The mechanical stunts and everything were phenomenal in it. Here, you're going to get a mixed bag with it just by the nature of what we're dealing with here. But that being said, like I said, there's nothing about disaster films, and it's not because we want to see people die or destruction in a way that
No.
we want to appreciate the awesomeness of what we're seeing in nature, that it's very unique, whether it's an earthquake or whether
nature
it's this.
is beautiful and very
Yeah.
frightening.
So there's a part of me that goes, well, who won here? Because there's always the subculture of people that want to understand and control the world that's around them. And you could argue that whether it's science fiction or politics or religion, wherever your background would be, how you view things, is that nature always wins, right? And mankind always loses. And so I don't know if the message is here, well, if a woman's involved, she can do anything as long as she faces her fears. I didn't get that vibe, but I know some people have already told me, well, oh yeah, the guys here are useless. And they get on that hate watch kind of thing to it. I think basically, just looking at it as a movie, like I told you, it was a bit boring for me. I think they could have cut out a half hour into it. I think there's a lot of things they could have done a lot better with it. I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. It's a summer film for me. It feels like it. It's appropriate to see it in there. I think it'll still look good if you see it at home, but the theaters where you really want to see stuff like it, I just wish we had more stuff. The last kind of open movie, even though we talked about the Western movie recently there, that looked beautiful. It was a nice backdrop. The last movie that I thought did a really good job of using CGI and outdoor stuff was a movie I talked about a year or two ago I think it was called Fall, where two ladies climb a tower and things do not go well. And I'm telling you, that's a great movie, and it's written well, and it's modern and everything too. But the use of CGI in space with them being trapped on the radio tower they climb up, it's phenomenal. And the girls do a great job in here. Here, the characters, I don't care about any of them. They don't do enough for me to hate them. They fill their roles. And like you said, Drone Girl, somebody that has one or two okay scenes, but they're just there to be there. What we want to see is this appreciation for nature. And they took it seriously. They killed people off. They make it very destructive. I wish we would get more of this kind of stuff, because it's riveting to sit back and just watch.
The one thing we didn't mention was a British news reporter that was doing basically doing a story on the Tyler Owens,
Yeah, he's doing the right.
But then he says, as
what's
Tyler
her name?
says,
She's more intriguing.
Yeah, and he eventually says, it's like, she's taking a photo. It's like, dude, that's your story, not me. Tell it, do it. And at the end, they show she publishes the book, her paper, her findings on this and stuff. And it basically it's a happy ending for everybody, pretty much. And you don't really get that much. Had this been a very woke fest movie, and I hate using the word woke, but I mean like
say that again?
Very political, very crappy movie, it would have been basically Javi reveals, "Oh, I love you," after the other guy, and then it's basically like Twilight again. Two guys trying to romance her, and then she says, "I don't need no man." Like that. Like I said, it could have easily went that way. But like I said, I don't mind this. This shows that no matter what your gender is, you can go into this field.
Look, they're both looking people. I'm telling you, the way they wrote this, there's no chemistry at all.
There's only one thing that annoyed me. She has this stupid buckle strap on her shoulder. And from the back, it looks like she's got like a gun holster there. But there's no holster. It's just a strap. That says a buckle, leather strap. What the hell is that for?
You're usually not a fashionista, sir. So
no, but I saw that. And I'm like, because like, what? Well, the only time I ever see girls wearing that is like Tomb Raider, because she has the holster and stuff. This she just has like a thing, and it buckles here and on the front, and it's like, what is that for? What's the purpose? The ending where she has a tank top and stuff, you can't see it on this, but it's like she has it on there, and like, what is the point of that? Who chose that? It's like, it's just so weird. It stood out to me. I was like, it shouldn't have bothered me that much as it did, but I was just like, put a gun in there or something, put something there. Maybe it's a camera strap, whatever. It was just like, it was useless is the thing. But anyway, Very fun movie, all the way from beginning to the end. I had fun with it. I wish we would have had cows, you know. But for everybody says I know everybody's saying, "Oh, it's a standalone sequel." It's not a sequel.
It's not. I agree with you.
Like,
The way this is marketed is not right for you guys that are older
Yeah.
that listen to us. If you haven't seen the original Twisters, I'm not going to say they're two totally different movies, but they don't need each other.
No, they're separate stories. Although both girls are named Kate in it.
Whoop the goddamn do.
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
I'm just glad it wasn't Karen.
That would have been funny though. I got to root for Karen.
That's what I think. Is like now. It's like we got tornadoes. They change it. We got Karens now. Run away. But his truck does survive at the end. Don't know how, but it does. And then he does the thing. Remember, you like they push the button. He's like, "You gotta move this." He's like the airport because the airport security always wants to keep moving. He puts the button. It just drills right into the asphalt. Like my ass, and he leaves it there, so you can't tell him. I'm thinking, yeah, unless he gets on that plane, he is getting arrested.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. That's
like, I was like, this, like, I don't know how lax he is.
Many times during the movie. Look, my final thought is this: it's okay. It's not great. It's good in some spots.
Yeah.
I think it's worth watching as a summer movie. I'll give it that. But I would have liked to see nature kind of went out in the end here a little bit, not to be dark or whatever like that, but it's there's no real exciting twists or turns in here. There's no real surprises. Again, it's effectively, it's done well. They don't do it, but it's very sanitized, I guess. It's just not, it's not saying it should be edgy, but I wanted to come away not going, okay, maybe there's romance here. I came here, I want to leave the movie going, man, that was kind of fun, and that's it. You said zany earlier. I think that's a nice little word. This movie lacked zaniness, and it should have had some. Or if you're going to be dark like this, nature should have won out in the end. Her idea should have failed. Just at the end to go, yeah, don't fuck with it. And maybe they're left with the realization, hey, you know what? We're going to stay here in Oklahoma, and we're going to figure this out together. And then boom, that leaves it up knowing that they've got a future, and then we got possible sequel coming. Yeah. Here they do the classic goodbye, chase after kind of nonsense. It's the way the movie was. That was not really an appropriate ending.
Philip Hoffman Seymour, or whatever, Seymour Hoffman, whatever it is, the guy who made the first movie, rest in peace. He made that movie really fun, along with the other guy. And I gotta give a shout out to the other guy that was in here. I think he played Scott. He was basically like the co-pilot. He's always in the video camera stuff. He was fun too. Like the cast that he had in the air. You had what was her? Can't remember what her name was. Katy O'Brien. You saw her in the lesbian movie, or whatever it's called, with Kristen Stewart. She's the short hair one, the butch.
The bodybuilding one.
Yeah, she was in here too. And
that's actually a decent movie. I just got done watching it.
And she actually had a decent role in this too. Like I said, it wasn't like Virtue Signal, and it was actually this is a movie you can watch with your family. Now, I'll say this: if you live in where there's and you have small kids and there's tornadoes, and your kids are scared of tornadoes, don't watch this with them. Don't let them watch until they're much older. Let them understand, And you talk about this movie like having it's who wins. It's the same as the first movie. You're just trying to survive. Yeah, that's all it is. Like if they can they find a way to disperse it, to safely help people, that's great and all. But I mean, it's tornadoes, just like nature. They have their destructive they are. They have their reason. So that's my thing. Is don't mess with nature. If you try to do this, you're going to cause it. I'm thinking here comes a super tornado now because you're into all these crap in here.
Yeah, not like F6 or F7 or anything you would get on the old sci-fi or chiller stations. None of that nonsense.
F13.
Yeah. F5 is Brock Lesnar's finishing move, and that's it, right?
Yeah, as devastating as it is, I don't need an F10.
I'm glad you threw reference into Love Lies Bleeding, because that was surprisingly pretty good. And Kristen Stewart's face is that wrestling bitch face she always has.
Yeah,
it works in this movie, and I think it's one of her best performances. And I mean that seriously.
Yeah. So Kristen Stewart's not in this, but it's Katy O'Brien though, the other one.
But they look alike, don't they?
No, they don't. It's Katy O'Brien. You know where she's from? See, I first saw her in Z Nation. And then she started popping up in the other movies, and then I was kind of like, oh, she was also in, I believe, in Van Helsing as well. and said like she's always been a decent
Yeah.
person. She doesn't go around doing the whole like political virtue signal stuff. So I had no problem with her. Maybe but I also don't follow a lot of people on social media, celebrity stuff, because a lot of them are just jerks. But and that being said, though, if you guys haven't seen this movie and we spoiled the heck out of it, and you still want to go watch it in the theater. Don't settle for TV or stuff, because
check it out. I will say
not
that.
The same. And when it comes to like these movies, especially the disaster movies, like 2012 and all that stuff, or whatever, like we want to watch these. Like Armageddon, I saw in the theater. It was great. And I like this. So this is a very fun movie. So far we reviewed Horizon, American Saga Part 1, and then we reviewed just Beverly Hills 4, and then this one. And like so far, this is the most lighthearted out of all of them, and I actually do like this. This is good. We've had a tornado movie, we had a Western movie, we had an action movie.
Animals Attack. I'm missing one of those. Need to have one of those. No, Cocaine Bear does not count.
Well, Cocaine Bear is just silly, stupid. Those are your DVD walls. It's like Cocaine Shark. Yeah. It's like, yeah. That's my final thoughts. If you haven't watched this movie, you do yourself a service. Go watch it. It's fun.
It's worth it. We'll see it on the screen.
And if you're seeing it on Marcus Theater, you can go $2 Tuesdays. Or not $2, not $2 Tuesdays, but $7 Tuesdays. They have it for like movies, and then if you sign up, like most like theater stuff, you get like free popcorn, all that stuff. At least once a month, or you get like 3 movies a month or something like that. I think it is. So
I don't even look at any of that stuff.
Yeah, it's something to do. I mean, I know Zach, who's been on the channel before, Professor Pixel. You can just buy the membership. It's like buying a season pass to like the Disney World or something like that, or better would be Six Flags. So that's it.
Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for watching, listening, and letting other people know that we exist. If you got any requests, let us know. Good night now.
Later, guys. Watch out for cows.